Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday Morning Blitz for NFL Week 7. It is I, Jackson Roberts. It is he, Cale Clinton, rocking the Telemundo coffee mug today and a smart turtleneck sweater. Cale, that's a hot start to the episode, man. Welcome to Week 7.
Stole this from an internship that I worked like 5 years ago. Let's get back into some football. A fun NFL Sunday. I feel like we lead that like most of the weeks that we've done this, but it really has been like a bizarre, fun week in NFL football. A lot of emergent teams, a lot of fraudulent wins. A lot of wins for Jackson's win pool, which is a good explanation of saying wins for the dregs of the league.
For those that did not listen to that episode, we drafted 30 out of the 32 teams for wins pool, and I think I had a pretty good first half of the draft. I came away with the Eagles, the Lions, the Bills, who looked good for a while this season. And then my second half of the draft happened where I ended up with the Patriots, Broncos, Giants, Panthers, and Bears, who combined for 4 wins through the first 6 weeks of the season. So things were not looking good for me. Panthers are on bye yesterday. Guess who won yesterday? Patriots, Broncos, Giants, and Bears. We're so back on winning the wins pool, Cale. It's inevitable.
I thought you had some, I don't know. I'm shocked you didn't have some Steelers in there or some real. I guess you do have the
Steelers.
You do have some Panthers. It's the majority of your league is just dregs. It's really funny that it shows you just how weird of a week it was, where all those teams can come together and beat some very competent football teams.
Well, some competent teams, some teams that maybe got introduced to tank watch. I'm looking at you, Green Bay Packers, but definitely, and the Raiders, although being 3-3 coming into the week, I think the Bears beating the Raiders with a combination of Brian Hoyer and Aiden O'Connell maybe doesn't quite move the needle so much, but I'm choosing to take it as a sign that all 4 of these teams are good, Cale, and I look forward to seeing you at my award acceptance. But I think before we talk about the dregs of the league, we should talk about the cream of the crop in Sunday Night Football, which was a very fun game and looked as though the Eagles did not have their shit together for probably 2.5 quarters. And then all of a sudden they win by 14 and Jalen Hurts is making big throws. A.J. Brown's catching the ball through double teams. And probably most importantly of all, they have the most unstoppable 1-yard play in football that they converted twice on a 10-minute drive to seal the win. So thoughts?
I don't want to fully refute what you said, but I do want to push back on you saying that the Eagles didn't have their shit together in the first half. I'm kind of coming around on the fact that this Eagles team just has an incredibly high operational floor. They've been able to string together some crazy long drives. The fumble in the first series of that second drive, I get it. Jalen Hurts is Miami's got an awesome front seven, completely swallowed him up, tries to bail out. Bradley Chubb gets a hand on it. I forget who else was in on it, Jalen Phillips maybe. But they've just got an incredible, especially defensive line, but front seven collectively. But these other drives, man, 12-play field goal drive to open things up, 9-play touchdown drive with a huge almost that was the Goddard touchdown. I was thinking that was the big A.J. Brown that gets him by the goal line. But another 12-play touchdown drive. They've just been orchestrating these crazy drives. The 13-play touchdown drive to end the game. Long drives to just kind of completely take the air out of a Miami offense that can score from kind of wherever. The defense has been able to hold their own, especially with the amount of injuries that they've undergone. We could talk about the Miami half in a second, but I think this is just a really impressive, both ends of the spectrum thing for Philadelphia. They have the ability to just be this dominant, win a drag out fight, take you the distance sort of team where it's long, methodical drives. And they also have the ability to just open things up and really strike you where it hurts the most. or just in crucial situations. AJ Brown is becoming not becoming, he already is just a one of one kind of receiver. Uh, one of the few real skill position game changers in football. Uh, it's when you have that kind of punch, it's awesome. But like everyone down to like, you know, Devontae Smith, like what they're able to do in the run game, it's a real collective effort. And also that tush push isn't just a 1 yard play. This play is going to get banned when they realize, oh, it's good from like 4th and 2. It might be good from 4th and 3 even. And at some point, the Eagles are going to get to a drag out game where they just run that play 4 times in a row, 5 times in a row, and just run 5 minutes off the clock when they automatically pick up. Like they just average 2.5 yards a clip and just drag a team out.
Chris Collinsworth had a good little moment on the broadcast last night where they went for it on 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter from their own 25, and then they went for it again from like their own 40, and they got it with the tush push both times, and noted that analytics, the big boogeyman on fourth down decision making, you're playing the odds there. You're trying to get it right 51% of the time, at least, maybe 56% of the time if you're really good at it. So we always heap bull crap on these coaches when they go for it on fourth down and don't get it. But when you go for it on 4th and 1 from your own 25, and especially when you have a play like that, it's pretty much guaranteed to succeed. We got to at least recognize that these coaches need credit. Nick Sirianni has done a really good job of decision-making this year. My one thing about the Eagles, though, they are less effective, at least in Jalen Hurts' running game this year. He's running a lot less physically. He's still picking up first downs here and there, but last year I just felt like his runs were such a game changer. And last night you saw them on the first drive get 1st and goal at the 8. And they had 2 weird design quarterback runs, including 3rd and goal from the 8, where he like checked to it himself and just kind of ran straight into the line for 2 yards. So I'm not like 100% sold on their run game like I was last year. It's still very good. I just don't think it's like completely dominant. And that kind of brings me to AJ Brown, because he is the X factor. He is completely dominant this year. I would have said he was a top 7 or 8 receiver last year. I think this year he's a top 4, maybe top 3 receiver. And the difference between those two is bigger than I think it sounds, because he has elevated himself to this total game record tier that I didn't think, I thought I knew what AJ Brown's ceiling was, and he's busted through it this year. 5 straight games of 125 plus yards.
6.
As an NFL record. I have no reason to believe he won't break it next week. He's just been singular awesome all season.
It's been really, really impressive. I also don't think, like, especially in regular season, I don't think you have to just have all that pressure on Jalen Hurts to complete those big quarterback scrambles. I think it's a thing that they will design in at some point. Oh no, they are 5. You're right. I for some reason saw an NBC graphic that said 6, but you are right, 5. Sorry for the correction. The Jalen Hurts rushing thing, yeah, it's been less needed, I'd say, beyond brotherly shove territory. But I don't know. When you have the ability to defer to like just a casual like 4 yards a clip on 15 carries from DeAndre Swift, you get like Kenneth Gainwell in spots where you kind of need him. He had a few runs that was blown up, but even calling in Boston Scott from the reserves and just getting him for like 3 or 4 short yardage carries when you need him, that kind of thing gets eliminated when you have Jalen Hurts in the mix. And like you're so dominant on short yardage runs already from QB sneaks. But yeah, it's just a level of versatility that this offense has that I'm pretty impressed by. And it's so thin. Like it really is just like it's 5 guys going to work.
Yeah.
Like outside of Jalen Hurts, it's the 2 running backs, AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert, Devonta Smith. That's kind of all you have.
And Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson.
Yeah, the offensive line, of course.
Those guys are the MVPs. Yeah, I'm excited for Jordan Mailata's Christmas Carol again this year too. I want to move on to Miami, but I just want to touch on Hurts individually for a sec. Concerned about the knee brace in the second half, or concerned about the 10 turnovers this year compared to 8 for all of last season, or none of it matters? He's just kind of working through some stuff and he's still Jalen Hurts.
None of it matters, especially when 4 of those come from one game. I get a little bit concerned about forcing it into tight windows and overextending too much, but this is also just an Eagles team that barely lost to a top 10 defense in the Jets
They
after.
lost in like really ugly, like worst turnover of his life fashion, and it was his
No,
fourth.
I get it. I pointed it out at the time. I'm just saying that I don't know how much it matters when there were 4 of those and they almost lost. And yeah, Hurts had a just completely breakdown fumble where he tried to overextend a bit, but in plays where he tries to improvise, there's also a lot of good in there. So I'm kind of fine with it. And it's the only one he had this game. I'm not overly sweating it. Turnovers aren't necessarily an indictment on the quarterback. It's more a product of, depending on the play, how often you're passing. Turnovers aren't as detrimental as you think they are. Let's not get to Jameis Winston seasons, but like turnovers in themselves are overblown. If defense is holding up their end of the bargain, if you're willing to take those risks, those turn into points more often than not, especially when you've got guys like we've just addressed on this team.
Ryan Fitzpatrick argued for Jameis during Thursday Night Football to play as well this week. I thought that was a fun little
I'm in for it.
Got their backs this week.
I'm in for it. Let's do it. Let's see it. Derek Carr's 60% right now. Maybe generously. He's clearly pretty injured, can't do anything with balls he's throwing. I'm not disappointed in how high I was on him. I think a lot of it's also Pete Carmichael, but just I guess Pete Carmichael is not going to let it loose, but
he's going to let Taysom though. We found that
loose cannon cop who doesn't play by the rules, Jameis Winston. Let's run. Let's do it.
Back to the Dolphins side of Sunday Night Football. They have now lost both of their games against teams with better than 500 records. They have been the most impressive offense in the league this year, except in those 2 games. And their 5 wins are a 2-point win over the 2-4 Chargers, a win over the 2-5 Patriots, a win over the 0-6 Panthers, a win over the 2-5 Giants, and their last one was another crap team that I had. Oh, the Broncos, 2-5 Broncos. So I'm still in on the Dolphins for the most part, but I'm starting to have my doubts when they have another semi-clunker offensively. And more concerningly, I don't want to say most concerningly, because it was 3 sacks isn't a ton, but 3 sacks when Tua had only taken 6 all season and they came in crucial late game scenarios, that starts to put a little bit of thought into my head of, is this team built to actually win in January, or are they just going to be a really fun regular season team?
Well, one, they're playing without either of their tackles. Teron Armstead isn't playing. Isaiah Wynn left this game. You're getting really thin on the you're getting just real thin on that line. The whole left side of the line is kind of gone for them. Isaiah Wynn wasn't playing tackle for them. He was playing left guard. That being said, I'm not that worried. Tua is still really bad when he gets out of his looks. He's improved marginally, but it's not the absolute disaster class that it has been the last 2 years. Whenever he is pulled out of structure and forced to create on his own independently, it's not as bad as it's been. But this is just a really good Eagles team that kind of forces Tua to play near perfectly. He didn't have the most explosive of games, but when you kind of have your entire run game that's been averaging 12 yards a carry, shut down by a really good Philadelphia rushing defense, you're forced to do everything on your own. And even Tyreek Hill, who had some big breakout plays, is held to his lowest efficiency numbers of the season, probably. I don't know if it's probably Tyreek Hill's worst game efficiency wise since the Patriots game. And even Jalen Waddle was out of this game for a bit. It just gets tough in there. But I don't think they're not built for January. I think it's just Like, they're currently dealing with a lot of injuries. Let's see how things shake out. But yeah, this is a really good team. They've got to be able to figure out counter punches. Defense has to play a little bit better. They also, again, played this game without Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey, who will both be there come playoff time. So it gets a little bit better there. It's just sort of frustrating to have this bit of a Jekyll and Hyde thing where their wins are so dominant and their losses, they kind of just disappear. Like that Bills game is like what, 24-point differential. This one is, 2 touchdowns. It's still relatively in the thing, but it never felt like the Dolphins were in it. The Eagles jump out to a pretty early lead, and the second that Miami starts to sort of pick things up toward the end of the half, beginning of the second half, Eagles D gets stout and just holds them. Miami gets a pretty miracle play to tie the game up, and then Philadelphia just kind of sits on them, like just really runs the clock down. 24 plays across 2 drives with 2 touchdowns is – or 25, sorry, is just pretty dominant. Like, it's just pretty suffocating. And, yeah, Miami can kind of score at will, but against good teams like that, they're going to have to find a way to sort of break it down, not rely as heavily on explosives, and just, like, be a good overall football team.
Yeah. And, I mean – there's also we get so tied into football season and these 1-game sample sizes and trying to draw these huge conclusions from them where in any other sport we wouldn't do that. It's just the nature of the NFL season and it is so short. But that game last night, there was a 3rd and 3 where Tyreek has a walk-in touchdown. There's nobody within 5 yards of him, and he just drops it as he's like starting to tuck it and run with it. It almost could have been ruled a fumble because he just like flipped it out of the back of the end zone as he was about to walk in. And then the next play is 4th and 3, and they go for it, and James Bradbury like fully grabs the face mask of Cedric Wilson on the sideline, and they don't call it. So if either of those 2 plays goes differently, it's probably a 1-possession game at the end, and who knows what happens. So,
I will say
Miami after that, tough.
Miami also 10 penalties for 70 yards is pretty brutal.
Can't happen.
Yeah. Like you've just got to
Eagles have been flagged 0 times? No, but also Miami definitely was the more undisciplined team by a long shot in this game.
Eagles also like had a lot, like watching a game just had a bunch of offsettings too. So like one, like the Eagles 0 isn't indicative of how they performed, and 2, Miami got way more penalties than like the already large amount of 10 lets on.
Yeah. And one of the offsettings was a tush push where for the second time this year, the refs call offside on the left guard because they don't realize that's Jason Kelsey's hand, not the left guard's hand, which is legal for Jason Kelsey to have 2 hands on the ground in a 4-point stance. So we got to figure that one out. But there could have been even more penalties on Miami, and that could have cost them a first down. But the Eagles just pick it up on the next tush push anyway. Long story short, not that worried about Miami. I do want to see how they look against the Chiefs, Kale, and I was really excited for this game until I saw that it is the inaugural NFL Frankfurt game at 9:30 in the morning. So not sure we'll learn anything from it. Not sure I'll be able to wake up for it with my night shift work schedule, but we will try because that is an exciting matchup on paper. You know who else?
Is that one going to be even earlier than the London games?
No, it's the same.
Okay.
So better or worse, we're incorporating the 9:30 a.m.s into our lives, and the Patriots play in Frankfurt the following week. So very exciting times we live in. Teams we're also excited about. We've been doing this thing every week where we kind of have an overreaction team, Kale. And usually what ends up happening is we overreact to the Cowboys crushing the Jets. The Cowboys lose to the Cardinals. We overreact to the Niners crushing the Cowboys. The Niners lose the following week. And last week, we anointed the Detroit Lions. This week, they get crushed. And now we get to overreact to the Baltimore Ravens looking really good yesterday. So 38-6, Lamar MVP. Everyone on the offense is cooking, and their best defensive performance of the season. Give me your level of excitement for the Ravens right now.
Sky high. Like this is what I've been looking for out of Baltimore. like not just the offense. Like Lamar's able to get it to like this felt like the first like huge it probably wasn't, but it felt like the first huge Mark Andrews game where like just so many times in a row, even though it was only 4 catches and 2 of those were touchdowns, it felt like Lamar was just turning to Mark Andrews in clutch moments. It was uh Zay Flowers like still continuing to deliver like some big explosive plays. Odell leads the team in receptions, maybe for the first time this season. I don't have those numbers in front of me. Did not do enough pre-work in this, but Rashad Bateman showing up too.
For one
Like
drive. Imagine.
so many, yeah, but still so many guys getting involved at different parts when they need to. Like Nelson Aguilar catching a pass touchdown. Like just this team is deep. This team is awesome. This even with J.K. Dobbins out and like the injuries that they've sustained in this rushing attack, Baltimore has just fully been able to create a versatile pass forward offense behind Todd Monk and Lamar Jackson that is absolutely crushed. Lamar Jackson feels like an MVP right now. But I say all that to say that for seemingly the first time this season, Baltimore's defense has really stepped up. It has been like not totally their fault, but it feels like at points the defense has sort of stagnated their offense, especially just looking at how this team has sort of handled opponents. Like it's been a lot of tough shootouts. The games they've lost to very inferior offenses. And yeah, granted, like those offenses should have stepped up against pretty good defenses, but losing to the Colts and the Pittsburgh Steelers, it feels like a defensive letdown at points. But now we've got a Baltimore defense that feels like it's really coming into its own, feels like it's had its first true marquee performance. And it's just great to see. I don't think this is like a full indictment of the Detroit Lions. Like, I don't think they're total fraud watch, although Jared Goff had a little bit of LA slip back into him. Like 5 sacks, an interception, a lot of passing.
It's the same thing it's always been. He plays when you're playing from behind with Jared Goff and Jared Goff's under pressure, you're probably not going to get the best version of Jared Goff.
Can't do things out of structure. Like it's still a big problem for him there. But
he's basically like slightly older Tua and Brock Purdy. He's in the exact same conversation as those guys. When things are going right, he can look like an all-world quarterback. When things are going wrong, it looks like he maybe shouldn't be a starting quarterback in the NFL. It just depends on the week. And I guess we should have factored more of that in when we were taking all the good and none of the bad with the Lions last week. But all the good can still happen on any given week. So the Lions are still in it. I just, maybe we had a little too much on our plates last week, and maybe we just needed something to talk about, and the Lions were the most pressing topic. But I'm not hitting the panic button. I think I'm just remembering, like, okay, this is still the team we thought they were, which is really good, but maybe not, upper echelon.
Baltimore's now like leading the collective league in sacks. They've had some pretty good defensive passing performances, and they're starting to get healthier in that department as well. They just like it's everything. Everyone feels like a clear number 2 to Kansas City, which is like shouldn't be surprising, but feels surprising. But yeah, I don't know. Baltimore's better than Buffalo right now. They're one of the more consistent contending teams in the league. I feel like we've had a lot of fluctuation at the top of this, but it's like it's them, the Eagles, and the Chiefs in terms of consistency in no particular order, and the Niners in there as well. I guess you're just naming who you assume is going to be the top 4 teams in January, but it like week in, week out, it just feels like they're the group delivering the most.
So you think the Final Four weekend is Ravens, Chiefs, Niners, Eagles?
I had the Cowboys in there late. We'll see how they continue to adjust and get healthy, especially offensively. Let's see how they come out of this bye and figure things out. But I had did I have it on this pod, Ravens Niners Super Bowl? I feel like I
Yes.
did. Okay. I wanted to make sure. I was very, very nervous that I didn't.
Well, let me put
I
it to you
thought
this way then, because you have been like a Ravens guy from the start of the year, and this is like the best Ravens week. I might pick that as my final four. I might swap the Ravens out. And that's kind of my thing is of those four, I feel like the Ravens are the most likely to let me down if I'm going to pick that as my final four. Do you feel the same way? Or is there another one of those four teams you think is going to let you down?
Niners are so weird in that they feel like the safest bet and also like the highest risk. If only because you're no, like it makes no sense because yeah, they have all this top end talent, but you're also picking you're staking that in of those four, and probably like even if you expanded it to the divisional round, like Brock Purdy's going to be one of the worst quarterbacks in that mix. So in terms of you've got three either MVPs or borderline MVPs with Jalen Hurts coming in last year or getting votes last year. But then you've just got Brock Purdy. It feels like the risk is because it's not a guy who can single-handedly put the game in his hands and take over the way Lamar can, the way Patrick Mahomes can, the way Jalen Hurts can. Like that's why it feels like the biggest risk. And especially with that team's injury history, just feels the most uncertain heading into January. Then again, they were winning. They were almost winning games with fifth stringers a year ago. So
Yeah. And I don't even disagree with your line of thinking, but then you look at it and it's like, oh, yeah, pray for healthy Debo, but it's Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, and McCaffrey against Zay Flowers, Odell, Aguilar, Justice Hill, Gus Edwards. Like there's so many
don't
other.
leave Mark Andrews out of that. Like let's not be disingenuous here.
Who am I don't even know. Oh, Mark Andrews. Okay,
That's
I did
what
leave
I'm
out. Okay, fair. But I'm pretty excited about the Ravens after this week. I hope it's not another one of those things where next week we have to come right back here and have the same exact conversation, which would require the Ravens losing to the Cardinals next week.
Say.
So
we've done this before.
Crazier things have happened earlier this season, so right there with it. But the Ravens are feeling good about themselves. I'll tell you who's not feeling good about themselves this week, Kale. Josh Allen, Sean McDermott,
I was going to say, like, speaking of teams who are going to disappoint me in January.
Yeah. Are they even going to be there in January? We are speaking, of course, about the Buffalo Bills. This is going to be an interesting segment for us as two Patriots fans that had sort of accepted the Patriots as a tank team this year and now have to talk about them beating their bitter division rivals in dramatic fashion. So WTF, Kale, what was the vibe out of Foxborough yesterday?
Not just accepted, Jackson. I just want to circle back and
we're excited. Yes.
Actively rooting for might be a better way of putting it. I published on Friday an article titled "The End of the Patriots Dynasty," which not my title, but mine was "Where do the Patriots go from here?" But it's basically all about this is the worst start of the Belichick era. Like Mac Jones is kind of Jekyll and Hyde in doing some things well and like doing the most of the situation, highest throw rate into tight windows with the highest completion percentage in the league on tight window throws.
Which one's the evil one out of Jekyll and Hyde? I've never actually known that. Is it Hyde? Because whichever the evil one is, that's what Mac Jones was for 95% of this season.
I think it's Mr. Hyde because I think the first guy is a doctor.
But I don't just can be evil.
Yeah.
Case in point, Dr. Evil.
Yes, but I think the point was that he drank a potion and then was a not doctor. He lost his doctorate by drinking a potion.
I'm sorry I'm not up to date on my 1886 Gothic novellas by Scott.
I'm an English major. I should know this. But yeah, like skill position group woefully disappointing. The Patriots defense is really banged up. Has gotten healthier. We'll talk about that in a sec. Special teams, like huge disappointment. And I wrote this whole thing about, here's how the Patriots offense is going to go. They're going to sell at the deadline. They're going to part ways with Belichick. They're going to get Drake May. going to have a good draft position, so they'll sign Mike Evans before, and you can run this whole thing back in a year with a really well-built defense, a new offensive coordinator, and a litany of new weapons. And within 48 hours, Belichick secretly signed a new contract, so he's not going anywhere. And the Patriots beat their, again, most bitter rivals. It should have been what I assumed.
We live in the era of not just like overzealous reporting, but Twitter aggregators and rumor mills and all this like 24/7 media machine. Not most, but a good bit of it is nonsense. And that yet there was never one whispering of an extension that Bill Belichick signed in like late August until yesterday. And it's sort of like didn't make that big of a wave in my brain, at least. Like it didn't register with me until like the game was over and I saw Rappaport's tweet from like 7 hours prior. And I was like, wait, this happened? So weird time to live in where Bill Belichick can just like kind of MacGyver his way into an extension with nobody taking notice of it for 8 weeks.
It's a good vote of confidence in Bill, and I think it's a good just like sign that they still care, I guess. But
should they?
That's the thing. We won't go there.
Congrats on 300 wins, Bill.
Mac Jones played well. Like, again, it's frustrating because it's Bill's backups. They're missing a lot in the secondary. Matt Milano done for the year. Daquan Jones and a bunch of the defensive line banged up. So Bill's D is kind of dropped off. Oh, Jackson, there's another stat I want to throw in there. I will confirm this when I'm done talking. This is the first win of the Mac Jones era when the defense has allowed 20 points, I think.
That sounds so true. So true.
I forget if it's 20 or 24, but it's a low number.
I'd buy that in an instant. I can't remember a single back and forth game they've actually won.
But I just want to say, like, offensively, this is a team that's kind of starting to put it together. Like, Ramondre is generating explosives again. Demario Douglas finally leaves the doghouse to lead this team in all-purpose yards. The lone speed guy they have on this freaking roster, not named Tyquan Thornton, who just, I guess, is playing a reception for 2 yards.
Let's go.
But yeah, what a second-round pick. If they picked Marvin Harrison Jr., he'd turn into a pumpkin. But like Kendrick Bourne catching big touchdowns, finally getting some like really good usage out of Mike Gesicki as a short zone tight end guy.
Not to butt in, but was this the week we learned that AJ Brown cried when he didn't get drafted by the Pats, or was that last week?
No, this was the week. It was Saturday. God, I hate this team. But yeah, like I don't know, like just some real quintessential Patriots performances. JC Jackson kind of nice with it against Stephon Diggs. Like holding him to 658. I get he had a touchdown in there off a pretty broken play, but had a pretty crazy pass breakup, meaningful pass breakup toward the end of the game. Was able to stifle him a lot. Buffalo had like 7 guys with at least 10 yards of receiving, and it's mostly because you got to go away from Stephon Diggs. So like, yeah, just a really complete game by New England. Suffocating in that first half, especially. Jackson, is it time to talk about Buffalo just not having weapons?
Yeah.
It feels really weird to say because it's like, it's so confusing because they've tried this concerted effort on getting players on the margins. When you've got a guy getting paid Stephon Diggs money, I guess he's like, contract's not even that bad. Like realistically, I think he's a sub 20 mil guy because he signed this deal before the big receiver boom. But when you've got all this defense or money allocated into the defense and Josh Allen, and you also kind of inexplicably, kind of justifiably signed Dawson Knox to a top 5 tight end deal. I guess that's just market, but whatever. And you try and win on these margins. And you try and just get guys that you might have hit alongside Stephon Diggs. That's resulted in the Khalil Shakir 5th round pick that hasn't really worked out. It's getting Deontay Hardy, who
Fifth
hasn't
round
really
receiver
contributed
though, like
here.
how
Trent
often do they
Sherfield.
work out? Yeah, I mean, I think the name that jumps off to me is Gabe Davis. Like, what are you doing, dude? 1 catch for 6 yards yesterday. Like, he's not the wide receiver 2 we thought he was going to grow into, especially at the start of last year. And that's like
1 catch on 5 targets for that matter.
Yeah.
Like a real
where
problem.
all these issues stem from is they don't have that second option in the passing game. Yesterday it was Dalton Kincaid. Finally, good for Dalton Kincaid, but
yeah, welcome to the party.
You need a second receiver, and they don't have one right now. And they don't have a game-breaking running back. And we have these talks about running back value all the time, but I think the Bills are a really good example of you at least need one who's, above league average, because they just keep running back like every year. There's all these names in their running back room and they keep interchanging with each other. It's almost like, okay, is Latavius Murray with them now, or is he back with the Saints? Which Cook is in their backfield? Did Naheem Hines re-sign, or did he walk in free agency? Just get a real running back. Devin Singletary, same thing. Like, all these guys are the same running back, and they need one who's like 15% better.
And Singletary has been like fine in Houston. Like, he's not a great back, but like that was supposed to be your answer for 4 years, and he was serviceable, like not able to do anything. And I'm not saying like I don't think Buffalo's missing a good running back. Like I don't think that's like James Cook not having the best day. Like the long of 20 really muddies the waters on the rest of his 4 yards a carry day. But
they're definitely missing either a running back or a receiver.
It's a receiver. It's a receiver to take away attention from Stephon Diggs, and the fact they haven't like invested premium capital into a first or second round receiver. I get the draft shakes out weird sometimes, and I think a couple receiver runs have happened in front of Buffalo. I know the big receiver one in the 20s this year happened for the Johnson, Addison, Zay Flowers, 4th one whose name is now escaping me in there. That run happened kind of right in front of Buffalo, their SOL, whatever. But
is JSN in that run?
No, JSN was like right before. Like JSN was like 14 to 16, I want to say. Right. And then that run happened like 20 to 23. But my name's completely escaping. Whatever, it doesn't really matter. But like they tried to get something going in Dalton Kincaid. He was a vertical tight end. I guess you maximize running for like capitalizing on all that like hyper successful DVOA numbers in 12 personnel. But when you run 12 personnel a ton, kind of loses its value, and you aren't able to get the same utilities out of it because defenses now just match up against you differently. And you'd rather have just a legit wide receiver than Dalton Kincaid or just any vertical tight end in there, unless you got Travis Kelce in the mix. Like, it's not really going to make a difference. Yeah, it's just Josh Allen's got this weird thing, man. Like, he's really good, and the defense is letting him down. Not letting him down. Just the defense is underperforming because of their kind of litany of injuries. And he's got to play hero ball. It's kind of built into his thing. And if Josh Allen's like, if that's his penchant, if Josh Allen's going to play some hero ball and do some crazy throws and kind of heave it up, you got to make sure you have someone down there to get it. Like, it can't just be Stephon Diggs, because J.C. Jackson looks like, I'm not going to say he looks like J.C. Jackson again. It was one game. Like, take a breath, Kale. But was able to play a lot of solid man defense against Stephon Diggs. And if Stephon Diggs is locked up, just like, there's got to be a 1B there. There's got to be a 2. I've always talked about having like a deep receiving roster being the thing to one of the best things to help quarterbacks. Let's go back to my wide receiver 20-minute rant from last year. But you've got to have someone, man. Like Gabe Davis is not cutting it. I was a big Gabe Davis guy. I thought like he was an okay receiver that had
4 touchdowns against the Chiefs in the playoffs. That's what's so disappointing about all.
But it's an explosives thing. It's an all or nothing sort of thing. When you have a guy who just mashes the vertical button, and I don't even think this is like a Ken Dorsey problem. Ken Dorsey's got his issues, but like Josh Allen, like that interception by Jabril Peppers, like first play of the game, that's bad. Like that's Josh Allen should know better than like when a safety like that's playing curl dig and he's like working down the field. Josh Allen, like it's not a rookie mistake where it's like, oh yeah, I didn't expect that corner had that athletic ability or that corner was going to play so aggressively down on that play or on that ball. No, that's like your fifth year in the league, like your sixth year in the league.
Yeah.
You should have this down better. I don't know. It gets frustrating.
I'm
It
so
gets frustrating. And you expect more out of a guy who should be in that 1 to 3, who should be a top 3 quarterback in this league. And he was fine. Like Sumer Sports put out their EPA numbers for the week, and he's still creating a lot. But like, I don't know. Like, you just need more.
He passes the eye test on every level, but there's always that like weird skeleton lurking in the closet. And they're doing the thing again this year too, Kale. And pin it on Allen, pin it on the injured defense, whatever you want to pin it on. But they had a pretty well documented stretch like the past year and a half, 2 years, where they went 0-7 or 0-8 in one score games. They finally won a couple, so that got everybody off their back. This year, they're back to doing it again. They're 1-3 in one score games, and they probably should have lost that Giants game last week. So they blow teams out, and they look like Super Bowl contenders, and then they just have these head-scratching games. And now it's, really 3 in a row head-scratching games separated by that one ugly win. And I don't know where they go from here. They're a really confusing football team that I could tell you could tell me they're going to be in the AFC Championship, and I'd be like, yeah, sure. You could tell me they're not going to make the playoffs, and I'd be like, that sounds kind of crazy, but crazier things would happen in this league this year.
AFC's divisional winner, New York Jets. No, I'm completely kidding. That was I'm stealing from Dirtbag Queer on Twitter.
That's
who's gotten especially doomer about Buffalo.
Like it.
It's they're still a good team. Like they still have a top 5 quarterback. They still have a top 3 wide receiver. It's just a lack of depth, and their defense is kind of getting annihilated. It's a big sort of turning point for them, and I'm curious to see how they end up.
Well, the other side of this game is that Bill Belichick gets his 300th win. Congratulations to the Patriots. But I think we still are both firmly in the camp that they should be on a losing trajectory. And that brings us to our next topic. And Kale, I'm going to let you take it from here. It's going to be a little bit like our past, where you're sort of the host and I'm sort of the reactionary analyst, but then you're going to get your takes in, which are probably more nuanced than mine anyway. But it's going to be a fun role reversal here for the next 10 minutes or so. Trade deadline buyers and sellers. The floor is yours, Kel.
Yeah. Last year was just, Jackson, how much fun was that? Doing a little news show, getting a taste, like maybe the most electric NFL trade deadline in recent memory. Just big names moving across the league, changing the entire landscape of how we think about the current situation. Teams getting transformed overnight. Absolute blast. I don't think we're getting that this year, but it would be sick if we did. And there's a lot of fluff in the middle of this league right now. We've talked about it a lot. The contenders aren't really contending. There's a couple teams that are sort of pulling away. Eagles, Chiefs, 49ers, but the rest of this league is really like full on in the thick of it. Even the dregs of the league, like Denver, New England, Chicago, New York Giants, even the Cardinals in a loss looked like they played tough. There's a lot of slop in here, Jackson. And we're going to sift through the slop and buyers and sellers. We got about 2/3 of the way left of this season. I'm just going to throw out some team names that are kind of in this middle. Maybe they're a win above 500. Maybe they're a win below 500. Maybe they are 500. We're going to figure out where these teams lie, and you're going to tell me if they're buyers or sellers at the deadline. I want to start in the AFC North, Jackson. We could really take most of this division Steelers, Browns, or Bengals. Let's start with Cincinnati. 3-3. There's really only one guy they're selling in the circumstance, but 3-3, recently on the upswing. Burrow looks to kind of be back, but they're about to hit this massive like off-season gap of having to pay Jamar Chase, hitting in this right time, and they're going on a stretch of games that could break them. At San Francisco, hosting Bills, hosting Texans, at Ravens, Steelers, Jaguars. Like, they've got a 7 or 8 game stretch of tough games, and they can kind of go anywhere. 3-3 Bengals, buyers or sellers. You can also say staying put and just seeing where they go.
Yeah, I don't think they're big buyers, but they're not selling. And I think if you come out of that stretch 4-2, you feel great. You come out of it 3-3, you still feel like you can get a wild card. And it's just, they've got this core together that they've been to the AFC title game with 2 years in a row. And they're all still young and they're all still, either paid or about to get paid. And I don't think they're ready to break that up at all. And I don't think there's like a way you could talk me into selling with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase on your team. Like, I don't see that, because that's still one of the 5 best QB skill position player combos in the league. And when you have that, I feel like you always have a chance. So I've sort of always been like reluctant to put the Bengals away this year, and I can't do it yet. I think they'd have to go like 1-5 in that stretch for me to truly bury them. So even though I have like many legitimate concerns about this Bengals team, like I think it's a soft buy / potentially stay in place if the right deals aren't there. And I guess you'd be looking to improve at like linebacker, maybe get an extra safety in there. I don't know. They're tight end potentially, but there's, these aren't like huge weaknesses. They're more like, can we get Joe Burrow 100% healthy, and can we, pull out some of these close games that we've lost early in the season?
I'd borderline say buyers, Jackson. I originally wanted to say, yeah. I'd almost say sellers, if only because, like, what the hell is going to happen with T. Higgins? Last year of his contract, or playing arguably the worst season of recent memory in his department, like a sub 50%
short memory.
Yeah. So with like sub 50% catch rate, he's putting up less than 30 yards a game. He's finding some touchdowns, but like the drops have been crazy. Maybe you try and get an asset for him, but I guess it's kind of also selling at like the bottom of his powers. There are a ton of teams looking for wide receivers at this point. So like that would be the only guy probably worth selling, but like you could maybe pick up a tight end. Irv Smith hasn't, like, I thought they were the tight end laundromat where they just pick a guy up off the trash heap, turn him into a hyper-efficient guy like a CJ Uzomah or Hayden Hurst. They ship him back out, get a compensatory out of it. Irv Smith hasn't really shaken out like that, but, maybe you can get someone in there.
Could you get
like a Mo Ali Cox?
Like Hooper? That's my Austin Hooper would be the first one that comes to mind for me, because the Raiders have the rookie tight end in-house, and they're not going anywhere this year. So why not just try to get like a 6th-round pick for Austin Hooper?
I don't hate it. I definitely don't hate it. I saw there's a PFF article floating out, hypotheticals, and Mo Ali Cox appeared on one, and I've always just been a Mo Ali Cox guy from like one data thing I looked up on tight ends. So I've beaten that drum unnecessarily for a while. But
it's good.
Yeah. All right.
Is there a team number 2 that might have a more exciting piece to either trade or sell than Mo Ali Cox?
I feel like that's a lead-in for something, and I'm fully escaping. Let's talk Raiders. Where do you want to go with the Raiders? Because I want to preface this with saying they're a 3-4 team who just lost to the Bears, are on the brink of rebuild. Devontae Adams feels clearly unhappy with his situation. You could also probably get a haul for throwing a Max Crosby unexpectedly in a deal. They've got so many top-end assets and are just such a collectively bad team. I don't want to fully tee you up for this,
But you had it's the easiest sell on the board. It
I
just
just don't
is.
know where you go with this team. They have
Yeah,
no
I
direction.
mean, like, maybe there's easier sells in terms of, like, okay, the Pats and Broncos, go ahead, sell everything, but the Raiders, like you said, have actual assets, and they've already basically said they're not trading Devontae Adams. I can see that logic with Max Crosby, but to me, if somebody blows you away with a Devontae Adams trade offer, like, go for it, because it's time to hit, like, the hard reset button. Josh McDaniels isn't making it to Christmas. Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to be your starting quarterback next year. Probably nobody on the roster is. I mean, we need to see more Aiden O'Connell games, but I don't think he's, the guy that you want to be your penciled in starter going into 2024. So let's make the rest of the season entirely up for grabs. What's Jacobs? He didn't get like a big extension in the
No, it
offseason.
was a 1 year.
Yeah.
He
Trade
didn't get
him
a multi-year.
yeah, I mean, he's going to bring back some value, I would think. So trade him too. I'd probably keep Crosby because Crosby's like the hardest thing to draft and find besides quarterback is like a premium edge rusher. And other than that, it's like, sell away. I guess Myers is probably staying, and Myers is like a good piece to have for a rebuild, like a solid, borderline, very good receiver too. And yeah, I mean, anything like Austin Hooper should be gone today. Like those types of pieces should be immediately sold for as much late round draft capital as you can stack up.
Jacksonville to remain in the AFCs. I also think they're sellers, by the way. I think you have
You just saw them lose to the Bears, people. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like you're so in the dumps, and I don't hate them keeping who is the New England GM that's in the building? Is Dane Brugler? No, that's a different guy. But they have a New England based personnel guy who left with Josh McDaniels to take over as the general manager of the Raiders. Ziegler, yes, it's Dane Ziegler. I don't hate keeping him around. He's had a decent eye for talent, bringing in Myers as a high floor vet. Michael Mayer's kind of developing before our eyes. They've been able to get some good execution out of the small pieces that they've accrued. Defense is playing better than the sum of its parts, but just a bad situation where you have too many big names on a middling roster where you kind of have to figure something out. Last in the AFC East, Jackson, heads or tails?
Tails, obviously.
Tails of the New England Patriots.
Oh, well, they're sellers. I don't know what else there is to say about the Patriots. I don't want Bill to like break the all-time losses record before he breaks the all-time wins record, but it looks like that's going to happen at this point. So there's no other like legacy pride stuff to play for at this point. I did say I was happy that they beat the Bills, but that was mostly for making fun of Bills and especially Nolan purposes. There's not really any purpose to the Pats winning games at this point. Shots had them at a 6% chance to make the playoffs. That feels way too high. I'd have them at like a 0.6% chance to make the playoffs. So like it's the Steve Cohen thing, right? Like hope is not a strategy, and the Pats don't even really have much hope at this point. So just, they have pieces and they have pieces to deal as well. So like expedite the rebuild and lose as much as you can in the process.
I firmly advocated for the sell in my article, which you can read at FTN DVOA. I'd thrown pieces out there like Kendrick Bourne, Josh Uche, Hunter Henry. You can even throw Jalen Mills, hyper versatile defensive back.
Yeah.
The PFF article that had trade suggestion sent him to Philadelphia.
Don't touch my Christian Barmore with a 10-foot pole, though. That guy he was the one guy I was watching yesterday where I was like, holy Nikes.
No, he's been awesome. He's one of there's a new crop of not new either. There's just an emerging number of capable pass rushing interior linemen. Aaron Donald's one of them. Quinnen Williams is one of them. Yeah. Christian Barmore feels
has like kind of ruined it for everyone else, where we don't appreciate some of these Barmore type guys as much because Aaron Donald.
The bar is too high with Aaron Donald, yes, but
yeah, exactly.
With Quinnen Williams in the mix, it just Baltimore feels like that next logical step. The issue I have is that Barmore, I have to go back and look at the numbers. He has been an awful run defender. Like he is an unplayable run defender at points. And if that can improve, awesome. If it can't, there's a ceiling on how much you can pay a guy like that. Going back to the New England thing though, or just like whether they're sellers, I think they're sellers, but they also Jackson, they've got
Oh no, you schedule game.
I'm gonna play the schedule game, Jackson. They're going down to the death pit of it's still Hard Rock Field. I don't know, but they're going to Miami, and they hate playing in Miami. But however, they've got a real fun runway of hosting the Commanders and Gardner Minshew led Colts, going to the Giants, hosting the Chargers. They put Justin
Again, they're
Herbert.
not hosting the Gardner Minshew Colts. They're playing them in Frankfurt.
Yeah, sure, I guess. But also, the Patriots are Germany's team. They're one of them in the NFL international thing, so it might be a home game for them. It's a literal home game for them. But what I was going to say, Commanders, Colts, at Giants, Chargers, they put Herbert in just a mental pretzel every time they play them. At Steelers, and they go to the Chiefs. They, for some reason, just always play the Chiefs really tough. Belichick is really good at playing against Patrick Mahomes. They almost beat him with a combination of Brian Hoyer and Jarrett Stidham. Yes.
Memorable.
And then they go at Broncos. And then there's 2 games. And at that point, like, I see where the 6% is. Like, you gotta win 5 straight to get there.
Yeah.
But
it's not happening, man. That was my worst fear. My worst fear was a 7-10, 8-9 Pats season, and that makes it sound like it's going to happen again. And I don't want it.
All right,
please, no. Give me one more.
Okay. NFC South or NFC West?
I'm more intrigued by NFC South because I don't feel like there's any like NFC West teams that the Rams, I guess, would be the one that I would waver on, but I'd rather talk about a South team.
Tampa Bay. Let's talk Tampa. I was going to throw New Orleans in here, but I think their situation's too weird right now with coaching personnel and like already a litany of offensive weapons, so I left them out of this. So let's talk about Tampa Bay, who is like half a game out of division lead. Like point differential, they're basically playing dead even with teams on one of the easiest schedules in the league. You're doing a lot with Baker Mayfield, but you also have some massive expirings coming up. Buy or sell on Tampa Bay?
Man, from an attitude perspective, I want to say either stand pat or soft buy like I did the Bengals. But I don't like what's the pot of gold at the end of that rainbow? You know, is a 9-8 season and a first round playoff exit where you lose 26-10 to the Cowboys? Is that really like worth playing for? And they have all those expirings, and so many of them would fetch like still decent returns. Devin White chiefly among them. Where like, I don't know, man. I think the smart move is sell, but I don't think they will. So that's kind of where I'm stuck on this one. Like if it were me and I was just like Madden GMing this team and didn't have to answer to the fan base, I'd sell 100%. But I think the way that sports work nowadays and the way that it's not just about winning, it's also an entertainment business, and it's about, keeping people invested and keeping butts in seats. I don't think they're selling.
I think they stand pat with what they have, but I just want to give a rundown for the audience of their top guys that are hitting the market. First off, you said Devin White. Devin White is a solid, if streaky, linebacker. Mike Evans. Mike Evans is the answer. Last year of his deal in Tampa Bay, has never caught for less than 1,000 yards. I just rattle that off because it's consistently so impressive to me. But along with Mike Evans, you have Devin White, Levante David, Antoine Winfield Jr., and Ryan Neal. That is right. both starting linebackers and both starting safeties are hitting the open market. Some lesser names in there, like Greg Gaines for interior defensive line, Devin Tompkins, like some much more situational players. But like there's a lot you could potentially move, and there's a lot that's immediately hitting the market in 2024, which throws a wrench into this thing because you see the glass bottom cracking underneath you, but you know you've got more time until it actually does. Like it's not year 0 of a rebuild, it's year -1.
Which was supposed to be like last year. Like
no,
this
it was this was supposed to be year 0, and it's just you're doing too well. You got a dirt easy schedule. You're riding the high. Baker Mayfield is playing moderately above expectation, and the two teams that you thought would be better suited to handle a season like this, the Saints and the Panthers, are downhill and just woefully underperforming expectations. Rams were the only other team I wanted to throw in there.
That's a good last one, and I agree that we should talk about them. So let's.
Just one of those, like, just real middle of the road. You see the highs with Matt Stafford going to Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. You like still have some marquee names on that team.
If you're gonna sell, what's the vision?
Drop to the Steelers, man. Like,
yeah,
they're in such a weird spot because like their first win against the Seahawks looks so dominant now. They went toe to toe with the Niners. Like they gave the Eagles a run, and then you just drop a game like this, and you just kind of wonder like, what's the big path forward here? Like, are you just going to get a 7 seed? Or are you going to ride out the Stafford contract? I'm going to pull up their free agents while you talk. Are they buyers or sellers right now?
Well, that's so with them, it's like almost the opposite of the Bucks, where I want to say sell, but I don't see the vision for selling. Like, what do they like? Are you going to sell the super high end pieces? Because if not, what do you have to sell? And I don't see like that nice middle ground of, okay, here are the guys that are going to stay long term. The 4 best players on their roster, 2 of them are receivers, and they kind of have a similar skill set to each other. And then there's Stafford, who has been really good throughout the course of his career and has looked really good at times this year, but there's also injury histories and aging curve to consider. And then there's Aaron Donald, who like you're never going to trade, but I don't know, maybe one day you could get to that point where you should, because the rest of your roster is so decrepit. So if you're not going to trade one of those 4 guys, and I don't see a world where they do, like what's the long-term vision for selling? Who are you selling, and what are you trying to build towards, and when? Rams are in a bad spot to me because I don't see them being contenders anytime soon. And we kind of knew this was where they were going to end up after they sold every draft pick in their team's cabinet to get 1 Super Bowl, which I think that's a trade you take 100 times out of 100. But I don't have like a good short-term plan for the Rams at all.
I'd almost argue buy. Like it's definitely it's definitely stand pat in terms of what they've already sold, pretty much. Like you get rid of Cam Akers for a song. Van Jefferson's gone.
That's a good point. They did sell. Like that's what they had to sell.
There's been a lot of like, the Rams should get Brian Burns, which sure. Or like Danielle Hunter's in that mix too. Like, yeah, sure, I guess. But
you know who'd be good to have right about now? Jalen Ramsey. He'd be a good fit on that team.
I like it. I like them getting out of that. Like it's a soft reset for their core. And if you can kind of figure that money out, work around a new team. But yeah, like they're not selling on Kupp or Nacua. They're not like flipping Higbee for a guy. Like they need players on offense, and they're just hanging around long enough where if you look at the rest of the teams in front of them for conference play, it's not that bad. Like conference wise right now, they are sitting pretty much 8th. Like, they're a half game behind Tampa Bay. There's a lot of, like, just slop in this middle tier of
If you're asking me who do I believe in more to make the playoffs, Tampa or LA, I'd like to say LA, but I'm guessing the schedules would suggest Tampa. But we can't have
Pretty
two
much.
NFC South playoff teams this year, can we?
You'd be surprised, Jackson.
Right.
Right now, 2 of those playoff positions are locked up by the Seahawks and the Cowboys. And the Rams just feel like they're right there with Seattle. As high as I want to be on Seattle, like the Rams just feel right in that mix. And like of the 3-3/3-4 teams, Tampa, LA, Commanders, Saints, and Minnesota's yet to play, so they'll be 2-5 probably. But like just of that, just that third tier in the NFC, I'd say LA is the most capable of breaking out. They just need like another piece. And Brian Burns would be a long-term addition because you, again, like you said, you don't see a vision for a rebuild here. You've got the offense in Stafford, Kupp, and Nakua locked up. You've got Donald, who, again, threatening to retire like multiple years in a row now. Tough there. But I like him as buyers. I like him trying to get something on that defense to just hold the line a bit. They just allowed 24 points to a Matt Canada offense. Like, I understand some of it's been
down to both running backs.
Yeah, I understand that's been an execution problem on some ends for Pittsburgh, but at some point, like, that's a big indictment on your defense.
Yeah, I mean, you have to head on defense because you're not, their offense is fine, and also like you're not investing more money into that offense after you've already invested in the world. So yeah, you're fine. I was gonna say last one, but like your header is Kirk Cousins to the Browns, so like we should definitely talk about the Vikings. So I'm gonna flip this one on you. Obviously, you think sellers, but like, what are your realistic trades? Like, where are you trade? Are you actually going to trade Kirk to Cleveland? Because that's a little tongue in cheek. They're not going to trade for a guy after they just signed Deshaun Watson.
It's not really. Like, Deshaun Watson's clearly not the answer, and you're getting so many rumbling reports about him like choosing to sit out of games. He was medically cleared for this. He was medically cleared like last week, and he sat out by his own volition this week. He goes out for a concussion protocol, clears concussion protocol, and then sits out. He's making just a lot of.
I'm sick of these guys like clearing concussion protocol and then coming back and getting concussed again. So
I'm not over like, yeah, I get it. But like if he doesn't have a concussion and he's just sitting, that's fine. But also just look at the way he played before. He finished with negative, like, I hate citing fantasy points, but the only like line I had while I was out when Deshaun Watson had gone out was I just flipped over. He had -2 fantasy points or an interception, a fumble, and like negative yards. Like he has been playing super well for Cleveland in any stretch. It's been about a calendar year of football out of Watson, just under at this. I guess not, but because he came back in week 11. But yeah, we've seen, in a small sample size sport, we've seen about more than half a season's worth of Deshaun Watson's game at this point, stretched across 2 years. You should see some sort of like demarcation of improvement, and we just haven't. Like, he just hasn't really improved. He's still doing stuff with his legs because he's an athlete. He's just trying to like get by in the passing offense, which even that's a bit of a stretch for him. But Kirk's done. Like, Kirk's on a 1-year deal. He's wrapped up. You get Kirk, you bring him in for a 1-year rental and support what is inarguably the best defense in football right now in Cleveland, with a bunch of awesome, like really hard fighting weapons around him in Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, David Njoku, whose face is burned off and he's still playing football, like in 2 solid backs in Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford. Like, I don't know. This team is like fully being let down by the quarterback position. You've got to have them win, which is why I say Minnesota. But Minnesota, on the other hand, is in
for 4-2, which is crazy bones. And like I fully registered that game against the Colts yesterday as a loss, but they won. And maybe
Yeah.
the refs handed it to them, but they won and they're 4-2 and they're in the playoffs right now.
Seriously. But back to the actual point of Minnesota, it's a weird situation, but you're actively underperforming where you probably could be, just given how big you overperformed last year. But Kwesi, the GM in Minnesota, has a massive analytics background. He's not going to fall short on some sunk cost fallacy. He's might be over aggressive in trying to gain assets. And a couple of the biggest assets you could flip right now is Kirk Cousins is going to get you picks. Danielle Hunter is going to get you picks. There's just a ton of I keep saying Danielle Hunter. I know it is Danielle Hunter.
That's him.
There are just so many former there's so many former Vikings defensive linemen on the Browns that I just keep thinking in my head that Danielle Hunter is a Brown. I know it's Danielle Hunter on the Vikings, but single-handedly leading this team in sacks with 8, should be getting moved, and he's probably not. He should and probably will, but is that going to be enough? You could easily keep flipping more pieces. Arguably, the best thing you could do right now, what could you get right now for a hurt Justin Jefferson? What could you get for Justin Jefferson on IR in the last year of his contract?
I'd still think you get a lot. Is he in the last year of his deal?
Yeah, he's a second-round pick.
Huh. That's so weird to me that they haven't I guess they could tag him, but I still think you're getting at least 1, maybe 2 first rounders for him. And I don't think any team that trades for him would do so with the intent of him being a rental either.
No, you would do it with the intention of extending, but yeah. I think it's just giving you first.
Look what McCaffrey's done for the Niners. He's bringing at least that kind of impact to your offense. So why not? Why not send 2 first rounders and a established good NFL player for half a year plus contract extension worth of Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, it's just getting the ball rolling on something. It guarantees you, in some regard, a quarterback, unless Chicago gets real cute because it's an NFC North rival and you allow a team to leapfrog you, or they just flip that second, that either their Bears pick or more likely, more likely their Bears pick. They flip that and allow a team to leapfrog them for Drake May. But I don't know. Minnesota's just got to burn it down. This has been a really a really strained time. They haven't been able to do much with this core, and they've always just been pretty good. Let's get real bad so we can get real good.
Agreed. I think that's it on the segment. Maybe a couple more teams that we could have touched on. Packers.
We got to break it off at some point. Yeah, we figured out the real gross part of the league.
Yeah, I like it. Game balls, less gross. I'm gonna go first, Gail, because there's so many options. We haven't even talked about the Chiefs yesterday, how good they were. Patrick Mahomes looked fantastic. Not gonna give him my game ball.
It's really, can I just throw in quick? It's really bad the Chiefs have become an afterthought at this point. We're not talking about the Chiefs completely dismantling the Chargers. Mike Tenier from the Messenger wrote a piece about it's kind of put up or shut up time for Justin Herbert. He started buying into the social media quarterback thing. But it's crazy the Chiefs are just doing it again. Their one loss is a 1-point loss in week 1 to the Lions, and they've just mowed through every team they've seen since.
Yeah. And the defense is maybe the best it's ever been.
Shouldn't be allowed to have a defense.
No. So not going to give it to Patrick Mahomes. Not going to give it to AJ Brown, who again is in a historic run of success. I'm not even going to give it to Deontay Foreman, who was he wasn't even on the Bears at the start of the year, but maybe their 4th running back that they've gone to and just randomly breaks out for 3 touchdowns yesterday. And I'm not going to do that because he has a teammate, Kale, that I need to introduce everyone to. I think we did a little bit last week, but undrafted free agent rookie quarterback Tyson Bagent. He is the NCAA career touchdown record holder. Nobody in college football history, any division of college football, has thrown more touchdowns than Tyson Bagent, 159. Tyson Bagent is from West Virginia, went to Division II Shepherd College. His father is a 28-time world champion arm wrestler, which apparently you can stack up 28 world championships because there's 2 arms involved in arm wrestling. He lost his last college game to Colorado School of Mines, and his first start since that game is in the NFL, and he won. So legendary stuff. And I give it to him mostly because I also played sub D1 collegiate athletics, so he's a hero to all of us out there.
I respect the pick. I did want to argue that if you're picking anyone from that game, it probably should be Deontay Foreman.
It probably, but guess what? Deontay Foreman has had NFL successful games before. This guy, like, what's the precedent for a UDFA quarterback coming in and winning his first career start? I don't remember it. Did like Austin Davis do it a few years ago when the Browns? Decided to start him.
I was gonna say UDFA quarterback throws a wrench because I was basically gonna say Brock Purdy, but he technically got drafted. He's the closest thing to a UDFA we have.
Not quite.
I don't. Yeah, I'll have to pull that one up and look at undrafteds, but it's gotta be up there.
He beat out PJ Walker in training camp for this backup job, and PJ Walker also won an NFL game yesterday.
A lot of good backup quarterback play going on these days.
Tyrod
Taylor. The 4 snaps we saw of Malik Cunningham.
Aiden O'Connell throwing a touchdown after Brian Hoyer played the worst backup quarterback game we've ever seen.
We should have gotten a backup bowl. We should have gotten a AOC versus Tyler Bagent. But we didn't. The Ravens spoiled that for us, and that's why they're sellers. Yeah, I forgot you didn't give a game ball to AJ Brown. I kind of like loosely read the top of your thing and didn't fully get into. I guess I saw you were doing Bagent because I was going to bring up Colorado School of Mines. Yeah, I want to give it to AJ Brown. I'm going to give it to Lamar. Lamar's just sick, man. Lamar's my MVP right now. If like sans Pat Mahomes. He's playing some of the best quarterbacking. He's playing some of the best football he's played since his MVP season. 357 yards, 3 touchdowns, additional touchdown on the ground. He's kind of just doing it all for this team right now. Just unreal play. Awesome to see the Ravens kind of finally put it all together.
Yeah, I mean, if he's not like year 1 in MVP right now, he's definitely year 2. And I think we were on that for several weeks among the 3 of us, me, you, and Nolan, just being like, Lamar MVP. But how much is his team just dragging him down into the mud and keeping the world from seeing that he is the MVP? And I think this was the week it was like, all right, cool. Like, we can all be on the same page now. Lamar's the MVP. So I guess we'll see if a Tua or a Brock Purdy ends up in that conversation after a 15-win season or something stupid. But, I mean, if you just watch the quarterback play around the league right now, like, Lamar stands out, and it's obvious. So, good pick there. Cannot complain. I have a feeling that you're going to have a good pick for defense, too.
Yeah, I don't know if I've given this guy a game ball, but linebacker Quincy Williams, man. I mean, dominated the bye week. He plays like he shot out of the cannon.
Good one.
No, Darius Slay. Darius Slay for the Eagles. Big play Slay. Doing it all, man. Like just in a season where the Eagles secondary has been really banged up, Slay has seriously stepped up in certain regards. Big tackle for loss, couple passes defensed, a clutch game sealing interception. Really put that one away and allowed just fully put the clamps on Miami in a red zone target when or basically a goal line target when the game mattered most. Hats off, big play Slay. Just a hard nickname. Just a sick nickname too. But yeah, it's tough to hold this electric Miami offense to under 300 yards total. Held Tua specifically to under 200 net yards with all those sacks thrown in there. Oh no, one of those is Cedric Wilson. Never mind. But yeah, he was a big part of that. He was a big part of holding up that Miami offense.
Thanks for murdering my fantasy team last night, Tua. The Eagles play great defense, and the other team that played great defense that I wanted to give it to was the Chiefs. But then, I didn't have one Chiefs defender who I thought was game ball worthy yesterday. They were just
a collective shutdown.
Yeah, they were awesome. So I'll just say Sneed, Willie Gay, George Karlaftis, Justin Reed, all of you can split a metaphorical game ball in my mind. But the actual game ball is Kyle Van Noy. Kale, if you had told me start of the year, Kyle Van Noy is going to win a game ball, I would have guessed maybe 5 teams he would have played for. And I don't believe that the Ravens would have been one of them. So shout out. That's pretty cool. Kyle Van Noy only got signed by the Ravens on September 30th. So do the math. This is only week 4 of him even being a Baltimore Raven. And guess what? He's right here. He's got his 2-sack game. And the thing is, the Ravens have lost every linebacker this year. They've had 4 guys go to IR since the end of the preseason, and that ranges from your Ojabos to your backup guys, to your veterans. Everyone's going down, and it just helps to have a steady veteran presence come in on the free agent market. So shout out 2018 Super Bowl champion legend Kyle Van Noy.
Not even just Super Bowl legend, kind of outside of maybe Miami, but everywhere that Van Noy's gone, he's produced. And I'm mainly shouting out him emerging as a very good outside linebacker for the Chargers last year when they had a much better defense than they currently have. Just consummate athlete or consummate professional, plug and play athlete, kind of do whatever. And
also a very vocal leader on any team he goes to, and has always kind of been willing to speak for the defense. And I feel like those types of guys are always valuable assets these days on contending teams, especially.
Yeah, he put on a big game. Hats off to him in a pretty tough environment. I don't know. A lot of the stories coming into this week is Detroit travels really well. One of the top 5 offense, top 5 defense. They're doing really well. They might not be a top 10 defense. I forget how DVOA shook them out, but they were surprisingly very high on defense. And KVN, Patrick Queen, Justin Matabuke really put the silencer on them. Just completely shut them down. Hats off to him, just hopping off the couch, Justin Pugh style, and making it happen.
Works for me. I was enraptured watching KVN do his thing yesterday. Special teams, Kel. Who you got?
It almost feels mean. This is where I give the Chiefs a game ball. You know why, Jackson? Because we were talking buyers and sellers. The Chiefs were buyers this week. Getting Mecole Hardman for a song from the New York Jets immediately pays dividends. I think I've anecdotally told this story on the pod of my unwavering belief in Mecole Hardman because of Madden 2021, where as a rookie, Mecole Hardman, I'm so bad at returning kickoff returns in Madden, and I broke off 5 touchdowns at Mecole Hardman. Mecole Hardman comes back to the Chiefs, 1 punt return, 50-yarder. Just sick. This in a normally lazy week, this would probably go to Younghoe Koo for just hitting a game winner. It'd probably be better than the Graham Gano one that I handed out. Hardman didn't really do anything outside of it. He had 1 catch for 6 yards on 3 targets. Wasn't super involved. I guess he's still relearning the playbook and getting reintegrated back into an offense with a lot of mouths. I just look at this sorry, I know we're not talking Chiefs, and this is now just a full tangent on a game ball, but like I don't know how many 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 players saw targets for the Chiefs. 10 of them caught passes. Just so many random guys not named Travis Kelce. Like, this is how are the Chiefs doing this, man?
Because of Mahomes and Travis Kelce. But there is like, and part of the larger discussion about Hardman being back is the Chiefs looked like the Chiefs yesterday, and that play was a big part of it, where he's just bursting downfield on a punt return. There were a bunch of big Mahomes runs yesterday. There were some explosive MVS plays, including one that went for a touchdown. There was like that dump pass to Pacheco where he just walked into the end zone and did a big selly like that. That felt like Chiefs football yesterday, which even though they were winning every week, I feel like some of that explosive capability had been missing. And that was like, and that place just gets like so raucous when they're just running all over the field too. It's one of the only like truly intimidating atmospheres in the NFL, I feel like. So that was, yesterday was my like wake up, the Chiefs are fully back moment. And that game had everything to do with it. I am going to go to a different well for a special teams game ball because we had the chance to do something special this week, Kale. Who's our like most awarded defensive game ball guy? Who's the guy that's gotten like 6 or 7 defensive game balls throughout our history? Any guesses?
Quincy Williams.
Well, probably. Aside from Quincy Williams, I think our answer would probably be Myles Garrett.
It would.
Well, he has not gotten a special teams game ball. So for the sheer impressiveness of being a 285-pound human being who can just jump over another human being and block a field goal, we hereby award him his first special teams game ball. And you know what? Like, they don't count on his special team stats, but I'm going to go ahead and say that having 2 strip sacks, one of which is returned for a touchdown, the other one sets up a goal line touchdown, I think that helps your case any given week to earn a game ball.
It would have almost been more impressive because he probably deserved it.
Yeah.
But they gotten the
38 points
special in 1 week. We were generous and handed him out elsewhere, but
it's true.
Man, he is awesome. You know, you can't jump over the center on a field goal block unless you clear him cleanly. Myles Garrett is 285 pounds. I think Austin Gale had tweeted it out. Just a video of him from the offseason. Myles Garrett, not Austin Gale, doing 36-inch box jumps with 40-pound dumbbells in each hand. That's insane.
Garrett.
That is superhuman. That is scary. I don't like it.
I'm upset. I was about to say, like, I used to do 36-inch box jumps in college. Like, I wasn't one of the more impressive box jumpers on the team, but like 36 inches is, you know, nothing crazy impressive. But 40 pounds in each hand, screw you. That's mean. That's mean to us mortals that you can just do that.
You're also not 285. Like,
no,
he's got a lot of extra weight to carry up on his own, plus 80 pounds.
That's profoundly upsetting. I can't do like lateral raises with 40 pounds, and he's out here box jumping with it. I'm upset at you, Myles Garrett. Let's talk about uniforms. I didn't have a more graceful transition to that, but what I do want to say is uniform games versus individual uniforms, I think, play a factor more so this week than any other week. So with that in mind, I'm going to set the stage for you, and then I'll clean up anything that's left to talk about from the week that was in uniforms. But what game stood out to you the most?
Man, it is really Chargers Manders for me. Or Chargers Manders, Giants Manders. I was reading your game ball to make sure I didn't take it. Sorry for the spoiler. These Giants retros are the coolest jersey going right now. And that's even with, I'm even saying that with the recognition that the Commanders all whites aren't exactly fantastic.
No.
But I do like them enough. And the Giants throwbacks are so good that they elevate the Commanders. But I don't know. Even still, I always like when they do something funky with the numbers. And I think they tried. And I think they succeeded. Uh,
Someone should get jail time for the Commanders helmets. That's what I've been coming to over the last few weeks. Because when they were the football team, they had cool helmets with the numbers on the side, and now these ones are just trash. I mean, matte burgundy with like just the world's
matte tough. It looks so weird in the light.
Yeah, it's terrible. They're the worst.
Also, apparently ESPN has unmuted itself on my computer, so I apologize.
It broke out of the shackles. Well done.
It's been contained for 2 years.
Yeah, me too. I
needed to sing its song.
Stupid ESPN. That's a good choice. I thought about it, but I just have so much vendetta against the Commanders helmets that I couldn't do it. And then I saw the late afternoon window, and there were a lot of good uniform games in that afternoon window, I have to say. As much as I'm not a fan of like the Rams bone uniforms, I liked that uniform game with the Steelers. I liked Packers Broncos surprisingly a lot, considering how much hate I've given the Broncos uniforms over the years. That one was fun. But Chiefs Chargers was just a slam dunk. And that's where I mean, like, it was a cohesive uniform game where like the yellow is playing off itself on both sides and you have the baby blue against the blood red. It was a perfect uniform game. And that's where I want to lead into talking about the Eagles, because they had perfect uniforms last night. Those are like the prettiest thing I've seen in years. I'm so glad Kelly Green is back after 12 years of absence. But I can't give that the uniform game because the Dolphins also needed to wear their throwbacks to complete the perfect picture.
Man, this is a very anecdotal thing, and I'm stealing this take from Stephen Ruiz. The Dolphins can't play good defense in teal. It's not a tough color. It's not a defensive color. You can only have an explosive offense in teal. They also just didn't like go super well. But yeah, those Eagles, like the whole field was awesome. The alternate logo was great. The color, incredible.
Mike Trout, because he doesn't have anything better to do in October, wearing his Kelly Green jersey in the stands.
It's so upsetting.
I will say, I think the best thing that happened in sports all weekend was the Nick and Liam Castellanos on the Jumbotron in the entire stadium singing Dancing on My Own. That was my favorite sports moment, like even more so than anything that happened in the playoff baseball games going on simultaneously. So any chance I can get to just like hype up the Philly sports scene at the moment, I'll do so. And those uniforms are a perfect excuse. And you're right, Kale. Those Dolphins uniforms don't play defense. Especially because it's not really teal. Like their throwbacks are teal, and that's why they're my favorite uniforms. These uniforms are like aqua. The pants are like more blue than a true teal. And that is really like, it looks like cotton candy. How are you supposed to play tough defense when you're wearing cotton candy pants? I don't see it.
That's the thing that's holding them back. Vic Fangio has been nullified by the cotton candy pants.
Correct. Speaking of head-scratching things like cotton candy pants, I think it's time to delve into some deep head-scratchers this week. I feel like I've been kicking it to you a lot, so I'll take the reins first on this one. And my head-scratcher is very systemic, not a one-play head-scratcher that left me saying, like, what was this decision? Why did this happen? This is a why did this happen from start to finish of this entire NFL season. And for context, the Houston Texans, Kale, were an expansion franchise who not only drafted a quarterback first overall, but basically had to cobble together an offensive line full of literal cobblers in order to field their first ever team. They got better over the years, but the introduction of the Houston Texans franchise was pathetic, and probably most of all so on the offensive line. They have the all-time record for sacks in the early 2000s. David Carr, their rookie quarterback, had 76 sacks in a 16-game season. There is a team right now and a quarterback right now on pace for nearly 100 sacks this season, on pace to absolutely shatter that record set by David Carr and his offensive line full of shoe cobblers. That is Sam Howell, first-year starting quarterback of the Washington Commanders, and the Washington Commanders offensive line. They are at 40 sacks through 7 weeks of football. 40. How do you get
That's
sacked
so many
40
sacks.
times in 7 games? And they were averaging 5 point something per game. It's now up to 5.7. They come in yesterday against a team that had 5 sacks all year. The worst pass rush team in the NFL, the New York Giants, sacked Sam Howell 6 times yesterday, more than doubling their season total. And it could have been even worse in a sense that Sam Howell also threw what would have been the easiest pick six in the history of the world if Kayvon Thibodeau didn't have bricks attached to his wrists. So the game could have been worse than it was, but it was already so bad. I don't know how Sam Howell has just found himself in this position of being the most sacked quarterback in league history. I looked through draft reports. I was trying to find people saying like Sam Howell takes too many sacks. They were there, but in like a 15 bullet note list of concerns about Sam Howell, it was literally the last one on NFL.com's pre-draft report. It said, you know what? He takes too many unnecessary sacks. Fine. And also like the left side specifically of the Commanders line, according to Aaron Schatz's FTN data, is bad, but it's not like historically bad. So there's definitely like many levels in play of play calling, decision making, game scripts getting too far behind and trying to work your way out of it. But this is way beyond the pale of anything I've ever seen in terms of, dude, just stop taking sacks. It's not that hard. Like you're literally blowing up the history book right now for no particular reason.
No, he just loves bailing out of clean pockets. Like Sam Howell, like they have a bad offensive line. It's not this bad.
No.
You know what I mean? Like it's not historically bad.
They have like the 10th best right guard and the 14th best right tackle in the league, according to Shots data. So it's not like it's, any way you want it, Sam Howell's going to take a sack. Like he's doing this for the love of the game. He's not doing this because he's got the worst set of circumstances. That dude loves getting hit.
He craves contact in not a good way.
Jim Harbaugh.
I've got an honorable mention. Nate Geary of WGR 550 was breaking down some Bills stats, and it goes back to what we were talking about like a lack of explosives. Nate Geary, at Nate Geary Sports on Twitter. I went back and charted every second down and 4 or less until the final 2 drives where they were in hurry up or catch up mode. You're going to laugh. 2nd and 4, James Cook run. 2nd and 2, James Cook run. 2nd and 3, James Cook run. 2nd and 4, James Cook run. 2nd and 2, James Cook run. 2nd and 4, James Cook run. In a game where you schemed up one shot downfield to Diggs, parentheses, that worked, Allen overthrew, close parentheses, you have 6 second and short situations to give yourself a chance at a big play, and at worst, you're left with 3rd and very manageable. Worst of all 6 of those run plays were the same play. They made 5 of those 6 second and short runs into first downs, but the point Geary is trying to raise is that when you are in those likely to convert situations, or you are ahead of the down count after a successful first down play, success being defined by gaining 40% or more of your down to distance. In most cases, like picking up 5 or 6 instead of 4 on a 1st and 10. But you've got a chance to generate an explosive and you choose not to.
Tell me this is not your head scratcher? Like, I'm appalled right now.
No, it's bad. It's bad, but I don't want to give it my head scratcher because it's fully me reading another man's tweet verbatim. And I want to shout it out and raise it to our attention. We can talk about that after. But what I wanted to talk about.
That's all we need to say about it. That sucks.
Yeah, it's bad.
That's bad.
Ken Dorsey's got some head scratching situational play calls in general. It's a very poor management, and from my tape watching of 22, he hasn't gotten a ton better. The thing I did want to talk about, though, I like doing head scratchers as just singularly awful moments. Arizona Cardinals had one. This is their first mention, really, on the show, not in passing. 5 minutes and 4 seconds left on a 4th and 9. It is a 17-10 game. Arizona is still very much in this, but have begun to stall out. Just a quick frame of reference. Ball started on Arizona's 33 with 9.5 minutes left. They moved 8 plays, 22 yards. They're now sitting at a bad 3rd and 9, right around midfield. Clayton Tune comes out to punt the ball, and they get into punt formation and then immediately break into just a straight drop back with your punter in a shotgun.
Wait, Clayton Tune's not the punter. Clayton Tune's backup quarterback.
I know. They ran a fake punt with the backup quarterback dropping back to punt, and then he motioned.
We should clarify that. Everyone knew he was out there to pass.
Yeah. No, he's out there to pass and not pass well. The play design was pretty much like a slant route targeted like 2 yards in front of the line of scrimmage to Michael Wilson, who takes it 4 yards. The play is dead to rights, and the game from there is pretty much over. Seattle then takes it down in 3 minutes, kicks a field goal to go up 2 scores. Arizona goes down on downs in their next drive. Ball game over. Listen, Gannon's built up a lot of goodwill around here. He's overachieved a lot. He's picked up. It's really funny now in hindsight that their only win is against the Dallas Cowboys. But they played a lot of games real tough. They played this game tough as well. Don't get cute. If you're going to go for it at midfield, go for it at midfield. Give yourself the best shot to actually pick it up. There's some fun trickery you can do on fake punts. This is not one of them. No one is buying that your backup quarterback is pooch punting. No one is buying that your, Michael Wilson's not breaking off a play on a slant route when you're 4th and 9 at midfield. Coming out of a fake punt formation. It's a bad play call. Don't get cute. Just do it or don't.
The Tune squad did not pull through yesterday. I for one am stunned that bringing in your backup quarterback to cosplay as a punter doesn't work out in the year 2023. Who could have seen that coming, Kale?
There's guys that do it. Utah, I think it's University of Utah's got a fullback who pooch punts.
And you know what? That works when you can have 175 guys on a college football roster. But when you're limited to 53 and everyone knows who your backup quarterback is, less effective.
Yeah, not a great play call. Not a great play call.
That's a good one. I like that we left it there because that is like just a pure isolated incident head scratcher, and we've got to get back to our roots of doing those as often as possible. That's where this show breads its butter. But butters its bread. Jesus. I like bread its butter. All right, episode title, breads its butter. All right.
Cotton Candy Pants wasn't going to do it. We had a lot in this episode. All right, Monday Night Football.
All right, let's do it. 49ers win. Cheap seats.
We just talked about selling Kirk Cousins to Neil Hunter and Justin Jefferson. If that doesn't reflect our faith in this Vikings team, I don't know what does.
Kale, in our shared fantasy football league, the league that it's neither of our number one leagues, but we're in it. I am concerned because what if KJ Osborne gets 28 points tonight and beats me?
Highly likely. KJ Osborne, kind of a dude. Kind of just gets it done.
Yeah, I'm thinking of just conceding so I don't have to suffer the pain of watching KJ Osborne beat me. That's where I'm at mentally right now.
Jackson, we got good ones this week.
Yeah.
You want me to give it to you, or you give it to me?
My turn. Last week you dished him out last week, so I think it's got to be me this time. We're fully developing a rotation. So maybe I'm not going to pick the ones you were going to pick. I'm going to eliminate some of the like dreggy ones. Like Baltimore at Arizona is by far the cheapest this week.
It's $13.
I feel like we've just established that games at State Farm Stadium, which by the way is more out in the middle of a desert than any pro stadium I've ever seen in my entire life, are cheap. So we're going to skip that one. I'm going to give you the options, and I just want to couch one of them in the circumstances. So, first of all, no circumstances to this one. $27, very cheap. Houston at Carolina. It's a battle of the number 1 and 2 overall picks in this year's draft at the quarterback position. Number 2, $32. You get to go watch Rams at Cowboys. A lot of marquee names in that matchup, but it's $32 because you have to do the stupid AT&T Stadium Jerry World standing room only thing. And you basically have to show up right when the gates open and sprint to get your spot. So that is your $32 proposition for Rams at Cowboys. And finally, $41. I like this game more than I should. This is Sunday Night Football, Kale. This is what Al Michaels, or gosh, I wish it was still Al Michaels. This is what Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth will be heading to next week. The Chicago Bears and potentially West Virginia D2 legend Tyson Bagent against the 2-4 dead duck Brandon Staley LA Chargers. 41. What's your pick?
You didn't really give me options because that Cowboys Rams is such a false flag. What's the second cheapest seat or what's the cheapest non-standing room seat? I'm going to look now. That's not standing room because it's oh wow. Oh, it gets bad.
100 and
yeah, that's a
$122 for the upper 424, which is like not only is it the upper deck, it's this tiny little sliver of a section up next to the Jumbotron, and I don't know how much of the stadium you can even see.
Seat me in the Jumbotron.
Yeah, at that point.
Let me just watch top down. Dude, it's gotta be the Copium Cup, right? It's gotta just be like two teams that have had such high expectations for one built solely on hope and projection, the other just on expectations and low bar standards.
I don't even know which one you're talking about. Like which team is which in that equation?
The Bears were like crazy projection of like Fields is going to take this year 3 leap that no one's really seen, and like DJ Moore is going to fully fix this, and the defense is okay. The Chargers were like, we have Justin Herbert. We just drafted a first-round receiver. We have all these names on defense. At some point, something is going to hit. Like one was an expectation of floor, one was an expectation of ceiling.
I like that.
And neither have worked. Both are bad. And I'm just excited to maybe watch two quarterbacks on wrong teams in Herbert and Fields, and if not, I get to just watch a West Virginia wonder with the funniest tattoos I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So unexpected.
There is a lot going on with him in many different ways, and the post-game speech where his voice just didn't sound anything like I could have ever imagined it would sound like. And
it sounded like a dub. It sounded like it was like a voiceover.
So strange. And to add to that, you've got Fields standing on a chair looking like a proud papa, and Nathan Peterman with his enormous neck in the background with this like happy but also creepy smile. That really is the most interesting quarterback room in the world right now. And I'm glad the world is getting to know Tyson Bagent. So I think I'll side with you on this one. I'm definitely that false flag game. I'm glad you like went the extra mile of sniffing out what the actual number was, because I wanted to throw that one in there as a caveat, and you just blew it up on the spot. So good job.
Well, if it's $60 to get in, I'm doing it. Like if it's 120, that's not only like that's one of the most expensive games we've got on that.
I wanted to bring this up. You know what the most expensive game of the week next week is, for absolutely no reason that I can discern? It's the MetLife Bowl. It's road Jets game at MetLife Stadium against the Giants. That is $211 to even like sniff gate entry for Jets Giants. I was gonna when I was formulating cheap seats in my head this week before I looked. I was like, I know the Jets and Giants are playing each other this week. Like, I'll probably take that one just to like really lean into the game in my backyard thing, because that's like, you know, the ultimate MetLife experience. That's as Jetsy and Giantsy as you could possibly get. $211? You kidding me?
Yeah, it's called the New York resale market, Jackson.
I've dropped a lot of F-bombs in this episode already, but fuck off. Get out of here.
It's crazy. The second most expensive is Vegas, Detroit.
Why is Vegas? Vegas is in prime time every week now. What's going on?
What is this economy?
Jeez, I don't know, dude. I'm flummoxed. And also, like, the Thursday night game is a decent game, Bucks Bills, and it's only 60. Like,
it could have very well been in our cheap seats window. We can't keep talking about the price zone of cheap seats. I'm gonna lose my mind.
Well, that's it then. We've got a lot to look forward to, clearly, for next week of football season. But signing off for now, Kale, you look like you have something you want to say.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, next week's gonna be big. Like, we're good. Like, this slate doesn't look bad. A lot of interesting divisional games that'll answer some questions. A lot of fun matchups that'll answer some questions. And then we're 2 days away from a big trade deadline. So maybe we have some stuff to break down as well. Yeah. And next week's fuck. Not the end of 18-week schedule screwed me up. I thought next week was also the halfway point, but it's not. It is for some teams, but not for others. That'll be the week after. But long story short, see you.
For Calum Jackson, we'll see you next Tuesday.
You did kind of start to say for Calum Jackson, we'll see you next Tuesday. So this isn't that bad. Whatever. Botched intro or outro. Fuck. Oh!